Welcome to our next Leading in the Context of COVID-19 and Beyond Bite Size. This time we're focusing on maintaining motivation in uncertain times. I don't know about you, but just recently my get up and go seems to have completely got up and gone. I've noticed it doesn't seem to be just me that's experiencing this either. Over the last week or so, our daily team huddles have been more subdued, and in our check-ins the word used most often has gone from good to okay. And it's been said at that tone of voice that means I'm not really okay at all. Albert Mehrabian, we mentioned him in the Power of Listening Bite Size on the 4th of June, knew what he was talking about when he said that words only account for 7% of the message and the tone of voice accounts for 38%. So when Liz Cook sent this quote around to us last week, it felt like a mirror when I looked at the regression stage. Loss of sense of purpose, tick. Tired, tick. Irritable, tick. Withdrawn, well, wanting to anyway, tick. Less productive, tick. The more I looked into this, the more likely and predictable these thoughts and feelings seem to be. Having spoken to some other leaders, a number of you are experiencing them in both yourselves and others, so it made sense for this week's Bite Size to focus on it and what we can do about it. So how you maintain motivation in uncertain times, and along the way I'll introduce you to one of my favourite books about dealing with uncertain times, Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. What we're all experiencing at the moment is transition. As we mentioned in the Change and Psychological Transition Bite Size on the 23rd of April, there is a distinction between change and transition. Change is the external event, something that happens to us, whereas transition is our internal response, and so is likely to look and feel different for each person depending on our own thoughts, experiences and needs. As Bridges says, it's not the changes that do you in, it's the transitions. Let's think about it in terms of turning a light off in a room. The lights being turned off is the change. The lights were on and now they're off. It's an external event that happens to us, either managed by us or out of our control. The unique emotional response to the change is our transition. So if somebody is afraid of the dark, they may miss the light. Somebody who's going to sleep, though, likely wanted the light turned off anyway. Bridges describes this transition in 3 phases in his transition model. The first one being endings. So this is about the change happening, so the world as it was is no longer. Notice this is about loss. Losses are potentially different from different people and can include things like loss of autonomy, structure and clarity, control, predictability, familiarity and confidence. Dealing with loss can be emotional, and emotions take energy, which will be contributing to that loss of get up and go I mentioned earlier. Next comes the neutral zone. This is about an in-between time when the old ways are gone and the new ones aren't yet formed or operational. It can be a difficult and challenging period, as it's a bit like being in limbo, and some critical psychological realignments take place, a bit like the cocoon stage of a butterfly's development. It's a period of transformation from one thing to another. And then we get to beginnings, when we come out of the transition and develop a new identity, experience a new energy and discover a new sense of purpose. In relation to COVID-19, while some of us are still experience endings, many of us are now firmly in the neutral zone, which you can see from the slide is also described as a wilderness or a void. Dr. Seuss refers to change as the lurch, a wonderfully descriptive word that conjures up an image of how change initially throws us off balance, causing us to reel or stagger, resulting in us experiencing that psychological transition or the neutral zone, which he describes as the slump. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch and your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and chances are then that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun, and slumping yourself is not easily done. Dr. Seuss also refers to this as the waiting place, because everyone is just waiting to see what might happen next, and they're looking for direction and structure, which might result in them operating by their own personal guiding principles or tightening or loosening the structure for how they work day to day. At this stage, communication is crucial. It provides a common touch point or connection for people. When we're going through transition, we need someone to support and guide us, someone who we can express our thoughts and feelings to and who can help us figure out what's next. which links really nicely to the holding environment that we explored in last week's Supporting Transition Bite Size. So how might you recognise those around you experiencing the slump? You might notice an increased level of disorientation or confusion, lots of questions and looking for or demanding clarity and certainty, which almost certainly you won't be able to give. You might also notice an increase in the level of anxiety or stress. Some people slip back, so old issues you thought had been resolved may resurface. You may experience increased levels of illness, although for us as a trust that's not happening at the moment. We're probably experiencing the lowest level of sickness that we've done in quite a while. You might also see or hear frustration, either people being frustrated with themselves, others, and or the situation. Fatigue is very common too, with people's energy being drained. They're tired. We're 15 weeks in now. A sense of impatience. People want things to be resolved and know what the new normal is going to be. And sometimes people feel isolated, like they're not understood and nobody knows what it's like for them. I'm certainly experiencing this next one, unpredictability or a real sense of a roller coaster. Some days people will seem particularly buoyant and others days they'll be much lower. You also might notice a reluctance to take responsibility, which may result in a tendency for people to blame other people or feel or behave in a victim kind of way. When those around you are experiencing the impacts of the slump, to support them in regaining or maintaining motivation, it's useful for us to think about their needs. We can do this by revisiting Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a theory based on the premise that people will not be happy or well adjusted unless they have their needs met. These needs occur at a variety of levels and are ordered in such a way that if basic needs aren't met, they're not able to have the motivation to meet needs beyond the basic ones. Maslow identified 5 levels of needs, so let's have a look at those in relation to COVID-19. The most basic level of need are the physiological ones. These are biological needs like water, food and shelter, and also involve keeping our bodies healthy. In the current situation, people may unconsciously be negatively impacting their own health by skipping exercise and or not eating and drinking appropriately. As leaders, our role involves supporting those around us to look after themselves, and whilst historically we may not have needed to support at this level, we may need to do so now. Once this level of needs has been met, focus turns to safety. This is about having an environment that is both physically and psychologically safe and free from harm or perceived harm. For COVID-19, not only will our staff be concerned about their own safety, they'll also be concerned about the safety of their loved ones. As a leader, our role is to ensure that our staff have the appropriate PPE, understand safe working practices, and aware of how to access the health and wellbeing support that is available to them. Again, once this level of needs have been met, then focus turns to social. This is about feeling loved by others and a sense of belonging to a group. From a leadership perspective, it's about supporting and encouraging connection and communication between team members and creating opportunities for them to come together. So things like huddles and team meetings, and ensuring these encompass both work and social elements. Next, focus will turn to esteem. This is about a feeling of success and recognition, both by ourselves and others, for our accomplishments. As leaders, it's our role to clarify goals and outcomes so that those around us can recognise their own progress and achievements, and for us to look for opportunities to give feedback to reinforce this. The final level of needs is self-actualization, and whilst it might seem at this time becoming all that one is intended to be is unlikely to be people's focus, some people, as a result of their experiences of COVID-19, are broadening their horizons and realising how much more they're capable of. Considering the needs of those around you as they experience change and transition, and supporting them to where possible meet their own needs, will both help us all survive the current situation and move into the future. Now, COVID-19 could be described as what's called an imposed change. That's a change where there's no choice involved, it's unexpected, it's sudden, it creates problems, it feels fast and out of control, is dramatic and disruptive to existing routines. As we begin to look towards the new normal, there's an opportunity to create what's called intentional change. Intentional changes are a result of conscious decisions, anticipated, gradual, they solve problems, they're paced, they're incremental, and they provide opportunities. And all of these things should support people to make transition easier for these kind of changes. Now, if we want to do this, there are 10 things that you can do. Strengthen connections within the team and communicate a lot. The neutral zone can feel like a really lonely place. Help people to understand the bigger picture by situating any new changes or decisions within a larger whole. Create clear temporary structures or reporting lines so everyone knows how they're working, even if it's only in the short term. This also makes short-term goals really important, and it gives people a sense of achievement and movement forward. Look for every opportunity to brainstorm and develop ideas, involve other people in the decisions that are made, and encourage experimentation. Review processes to ensure that they can deal with the constantly changing situations. Accept that we will each make transition at different pace. It's about understanding where individuals are and how we can lead them most effectively. As positive energy starts to dip, appreciation becomes even more important. Ensure you show yours and in a way that works for those that are receiving it. Fit your own mask first. You're no use to anyone if you're running on empty. Caring for yourself first is often the best thing to do so that you can be there for others. And finally, support people to take their learning and experiences from COVID-19 and the slump forward into the new normal. Our top priority now is not looking and going back to normal, but going back to better. So the takeaways for this bite size then. Regression and slumping are a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Looking out for those behavioural clues which will indicate those around you are in the slump or bridges and neutral zone will enable you to take appropriate action. People will not be happy or well adjusted unless they have their needs met. So Maslow will give you the opportunity to do that and will always want to start at the bottom of his hierarchy. And finally, the actions you take now will support the journey back to better. Now, we started with Dr. Seuss, so let's finish there too. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. As usual, this is one of a number of support elements for you as leaders during COVID-19 and beyond. So here's a list of all of the other support mechanisms within NCH&C. Of course, the broader NHS support for all of us as we go through this. I look forward to working with you on the next bite size.